And if you've been on TikTok at any point in the last few years, you've probably seen the same kind of content, the same kind of person, the slick-backed bun, slick-backed hair, gold hoops, the glowing skin, you know, very Hailey Bieber-esque. The kind of lifestyle that has, you know, like one of those really expensive water bottles that everyone's going crazy about, the very neat looking apartment, you know, and the 10-step skincare routine that's somehow supposed to represent simplicity and taking it back to being simple. For a while, it felt like the entire beauty community, the entire internet wanted to become the exact same person with like kind of honestly no creativity. As a makeup artist, at first I kind of understood it, especially being in a time of, you know, period we were in during and after lockdown. After years of like the heavy, what people call 2016 makeup, it was kind of refreshing to see this pulled back, clean, in quotes, style that didn't require the skills of a makeup artist or an artist in general. It's something that everyone could do. It was simple, it was minimal, it looked like it required minimum effort in terms of a makeup. But I mean, that's what it claimed to be. But the more you look into the trend, the more you see people and influencers and how they talk about this trend, the more kind of I start thinking about it. Why did natural beauty suddenly become such a huge, not only thing online, but cultural obsession? Why did every influencer begin to look very, very similar? And why did this aesthetic of I can never say it, of clean girl, and supposedly built around being simplistic, authentic, start to feel very, I guess, performative and not achievable? But also, was this actually a healthier direction for beauty culture? Or did we just replace one impossible beauty standard, being the full glam, the skills, with another? Now, one thing we all know about makeup and beauty in general is that skincare is, of course, one of the most important things when it comes to our makeup. If we don't look after our skin, our makeup can only look so good. And that brings me nice on today's sponsor, Current Body. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know I love beauty gadgets. You know I love LED masks, LED products in general. Current Body isn't actually a new brand to me. I already have their neck and deck mask, which I absolutely love. I have their LED light panel also. So when they asked me if I wanted to try the Series 2 LED therapy mask, it was something I was genuinely very, very interested in, because LED light therapy is something I've already invested in for myself, especially from Current Body. As I said, I've spoken about LED therapy before because it's become incredibly popular over the last few years, particularly as beauty shifted towards skin-focused routines rather than makeup-focused routines. And what people are really looking for isn't, you know, perfection. It's maybe just brighter looking skin, maybe like a more even skin tone. A lot of people want less redness on their skin. They want a healthier texture and just healthier looking skin overall, which are the kind of things that make your makeup look better. And that's exactly what Current Body designed this mask to target. I know a lot of people have a lot of questions about LED light therapy masks in general, but Current Body can really prove and provide those studies that show that their LED light products really do work. So red light helps target the appearance of fine lines and boosts radiance. Near infrared light helps support skin repair and recovery. And deep near infrared light is designed to reach deeper layers associated with firmness and more visible signs of aging. So this isn't just some gimmicky thing. This is scientifically backed studies that are proven to work. What I also found interesting is that Current Body hasn't just placed those wavelengths randomly throughout the mask. So the Series 2 includes dedicated deep near infrared LEDs around the eyes and mouth, which are often the first areas where people start noticing fine lines and other signs of aging. I know I have. They also have consumer trials that showed improvement in skin's brightness, skin tone, and texture and redness, and the appearance of fine lines after consistent use, which is the key to LED light therapy. And these results are ultimately what a lot of us are looking for from our skincare in general, right? Now, what really stood out to me about Current Body, apart from, sorry, a little detail, how this goes under the chin when you're wearing the mask. I know that's the tiniest detail, but I really like it. But what stood out to me when learning more about this mask is that Current Body focuses less on flashy marketing claims and more on what actually determines whether an LED light mask can deliver results, and what determines the difference between masks like this and maybe some questionable ones. So Current Body tell us there are 3 things that matter, right? The first is consistent coverage. The light needs to reach the entire face evenly. The second is wavelength precision. Even if a brand claims a particular wavelength, tiny small deviations can affect how closely that device matches the specifications used in clinical research. And the third is delivering the correct dose of light. This was actually one of the most interesting things I learned. More light isn't automatically better. And like most things in skincare, as I said, the results come from consistency. And the mask comes with a remote that has a clip, so it can actually clip onto you. I have used masks in the past where it's just a remote and it has nowhere to go, so you kind of have to like shove it in a pocket. I added on the eye guards to my mask, which I think is a really nice touch. These come with a mask itself, and you have a choice of straps. I personally just like the one strap on the back here like this, but you also do have this kind of more supportive strap, which fits nicely around the back of the head and almost like cradles the head a little bit more. So it's just nice to have those options and that customization value to it as well. And of course, it's incredibly easy to use. It's very self-explanatory. You just strap on the mask, hold down the power on button, and your red LED lights will come on. It will time itself for 10 minutes and then turn itself off. So relax for 10 minutes, but also you have these eye guards, so go on your phone, do whatever. Another thing you'll get with your mask from Current Body is something called Veritas. I haven't seen this from another brand. You'll hear the phrase clinically proven everywhere in beauty, but one thing Current Body points out is that clinical studies are performed using very specific devices under very specific conditions. So their Veritas system is designed to make sure the device you receive matches those same specifications. So every LED is individually tested before assembly, and then every completed mask is tested again for wavelength accuracy. So power output and energy dose. In other words, every single mask is verified against the same clinical standards the studies were based on. So what you're getting is what works. And each mask comes with its own Veritas card, which allows you to view the testing information for your specific device. It's like a history of the product and how it's been tested. And listen, as somebody who's tested a lot of beauty devices over the years, over this year, I think that level of transparency is genuinely very interesting because it's not something you see very often. We also love that this LED mask is extremely flexible. It's made from silicone. It sits very closely to the face because it wraps around your face, and that closer fit helps ensure the light reaches the skin as effectively as possible while still being comfortable to wear. It doesn't have to be uncomfortable for the 10 minutes. So if you're someone who's becoming more interested in skincare over makeup over the last few years, or maybe you're realizing just how important your skincare is under your makeup, or perhaps as you get older. So if you are looking to add LED to your skincare routine, Current Body have very kindly given me a discount code. It's RobertW, and that will get you 10% off on their website. I'll link that down below for you. So check out all their products, and I think you will see why I have been a fan for years and years and years. And thank you again to Current Body for sponsoring today's video. Today I'm going to be doing my own clean girl look. I'm going to be using a few products from WAKEMAKE from Olive Young Global. I'm sorry to everyone in the US. I know Olive Young Global is no longer available to you. WAKEMAKE is Olive Young's own brand. I have some of their Hello Kitty collection here that I got in a sale. This is their soft blurring eye palette, number 30, classy nude blurring. The shades do actually look deeper in real life. I also have these 2 blushes from them as well. These are the Shaking Blur Cheek from WAKEMAKE. I have shade 11 Cream Ginger and 10 Nutty Mellow. I also have a limited edition Hello Kitty lipstick in the shade number 22, Sooty Pink. Yeah, so that's what we're doing. Okay, one thing I think that's really important is that when trends become more than just a trend, right? They become so popular online and they're so far pushed out that trends kind of go past this point of becoming just a trend and becoming the expectation of what you should either look like, what your makeup should look like, what you should be doing with your makeup. And it can go one of 2 different ways. You know, there's some trends that we think may change the beauty industry for the better, that may change people's views on makeup for the better. But how good can a trend be that relies on perfect skin? Let's just go back a little bit. If you were online during the mid-2010s, you'll probably remember exactly what I'm going to talk about. Beauty wasn't minimal, right? Beauty wasn't effortless. It required work. It required some skill. It required lots of work, actually, and some kind of makeup talent. The face of the internet almost looked completely different from what it does today, and although it seems to be making a bit of a comeback, what they're calling 2016 makeup, it isn't quite there yet. But if you remember, brows were very thick, heavily defined, you know? Contour was everywhere. We kind of was doing that Kim K contour that everyone was doing. Highlighter was insane, like borderline metallic, Tin Man-esque, right? And foundation was most definitely full matte coverage. Even false lashes, you don't see false lashes very much online. And makeup tutorials, those videos stretched past like the 40-minute mark, you know what I mean? Back then, beauty wasn't trying to convince you that you naturally woke up looking incredible, right? The whole point was transformation. It was the before and after that made a big impact. Especially you can see that in the video like Nikki Tutorial's video that was like the power of makeup, you know? Beauty was a process. A beauty influencer could start a video looking one way and then end the video looking like a completely different person, which is part of the power of makeup if that's what you want to do with it, you know? But audience loved it back then. There's something artistic about it. That's what makeup is. It's art, right? Makeup wasn't pretending to be or had to be invisible. You know, people loved wearing makeup. It was supposed to be kind of obvious you were wearing makeup. You were supposed to notice it. You were supposed to admire the skill that went into the makeup, the skill that went into that cut crease, the positioning of your highlighter, you know, whether or not you had that new Morphe palette, whether or not you had that new Anastasia Beverly Hills palette. But listen, people got tired. We all know people got tired, not necessarily because the makeup was ugly, but because maintaining that level of makeup application, that level of having to purchase new products all the time to achieve certain looks started to feel exhausting. Listen, and every trend as well, and we've seen this through time, basically make space for something to replace it. You know what I mean? So in this example, my curl just is not doing it today. In this example, I'm saying that too much makeup will make space for a trend of no makeup, you know? Skinny jeans make space for a trend of baggy jeans. Like, there's always an opposite waiting to come in and replace what's already there. Listen, by the end of the 2010s, beauty culture had become so filtered and so perfected and so intense that it was about time people wanted the opposite direction. Then of course we got hit by the pandemic where people just had no reason to go out and wear makeup. I mean, people are definitely still doing makeup at home. People don't just do it for other people. So, you know, people were practicing their skills at home still. People were still wearing makeup for themselves to make them feel better during the pandemic. But the clean girl aesthetic, I'm never gonna say aesthetic, right? Promised a break, I guess, from those previous beauty standards and that expectation, but also may have created a whole new beauty standard in itself. So clean girl didn't really become popular because somebody invented like a revolutionary new makeup technique, right? In reality, most of the things associated with the trend of clean girl already existed. This might sound a little bit mean, but the rise of people being TikTokers, clean girl didn't require much makeup experience or talent, should I say. You didn't have to do a cut crease. You didn't have to perfect a red lip that was sharp around the edges. You didn't have to be a makeup artist to be a makeup content creator. You didn't have to work for MAC to become a content creator. But things like glowy skin wasn't new, you know? Slick back buns weren't new. The like model off-duty trend wasn't new. What was new was the timing, because by the early 2020s people were so exhausted, and people have said this and voiced this opinion for years and years. Social media, beauty social media, have been moving towards bigger, bolder, more dramatic, more like colorful products, new beauty standards, these products that you didn't know you needed and now you need. So every year seemed to demand more products, more steps, more skill, more talent, and more effort into what you were doing. I'm not doing that at 6 o'clock in the morning, you know what I mean? It also required more perfection in your skills. And eventually, you know, people bore of that, and the entire thing, that entire expectation started to collapsed and started to become not popular. It was almost like a revolt against that whole trend. Then came lockdown. As we said, people stopped going out. Many people actually stopped wearing makeup altogether, except for those people that had to work, people on the front line. But beauty routines were changing literally overnight. For the first time in years, millions of people were spending most of their time staring at their bare faces, you know, and not a face they had to make up or were going to make up. And then something interesting happened. Instead of becoming less interested in beauty, people became obsessed with skincare. People loved it before, don't get me wrong, they knew skincare was important, but the conversation shifted and people became kind of a little bit more expertise, and that's not a word, but you know what I'm trying to say, in skincare, like they had been in makeup, right? The focus was no longer on how to cover your skin, it was how to improve what you already had. So the beauty industry wasn't really disappearing, it was simply moving on to skincare, and a lot of skincare influencers became extremely popular during this time and exploded onto the scene. And this created the perfect space for a trend like clean girl to thrive, because clean girl wasn't really selling makeup, it was selling the idea that you no longer actually needed makeup, you know? Maybe a bit of tinted moisturizer, maybe a hint of something, but it was to look like you had nothing on. The trend was to make people believe that you didn't need makeup, to make people believe that you weren't even wearing makeup. It was a very simple, clear message. Drink water, journal, take care of yourself, wear a tiny bit of concealer, use a skin tint or a tinted SPF, put your hair in a neat bun, and suddenly you'll look effortlessly, I don't know, complete, effortlessly beautiful. Compared to the beauty standards and the effort that you had to put in to your makeup just a year before, or even a few months before, you know? And does that not sound incredibly appealing? You know, less makeup, more skincare. It does sound appealing. It's just one problem though. Clean girl wasn't actually effortless by any means. It was simply very good at hiding the effort. There's something we always say as makeup artists, right? And that is, to make a model look like they're wearing no makeup at all is one of the hardest makeup looks to do. Because if you've ever seen a beauty campaign where the model looks like they're wearing no makeup, they are wearing makeup. And it has taken a long time and a lot of effort to make them look like they are not wearing any makeup at all. And that's the kind of word that went with this clean girl kind of movement, was effortless, right? Effortless beauty style, effortless, I don't know, confidence, effortless putting outfits together, effortless hair because it's just back in a bun, and like just it was effortless living, right? You didn't have to do much before you went to work, you didn't have to do all this, but that's like great for marketing. Imagine somebody selling you something that makes it effortless to look incredible, right? When you actually look at the people who popularized clean girl, effortless is probably the last word I would use to describe them in general, their lifestyle, the content they put together, the whole thing. Clean girl asks for clear skin, healthy hair, white teeth, perfect brows that don't look like they're too overgroomed, long lashes. These are all things that take time and effort, you know, and often require money and often require a whole lifestyle around maintaining those kind of things. So when we're looking at the effort we used to put into our makeup in the 2016 days, early days, the effort didn't disappear, it just became less obvious and less visible on the face. During that era, it was obvious. You could see makeup, you could see contour, you could see the formula of someone's lipstick, you can see the texture of someone's lipstick, you could see the eyeshadow, the blending, everything was visible effort, right? Nobody was pretending otherwise. No one was being like, oh, I put no effort into my makeup. It was like, look how much time I spent on my makeup. Look how amazing my makeup looks. Clean girl has a different goal though. The goal wasn't to look beautiful. The goal was to look beautiful without trying, without appearing to have put any effort in at all. And I think for some reason, as a society, people tend to reward that more. People tend to admire that kind of beauty more. Someone who spends 2 hours doing dramatic, where's the brush I want? Dramatic eye makeup, for example, may be considered high maintenance. Oh, she likes to do her makeup. Oh, she likes to do this. Oh, she has to leave the house with makeup on. How high maintenance, you know? Whereas really, we're looking at a trend here that requires time spent on skincare, on hair, on brow appointments, lash appointments, is then described as like naturally beautiful, even though the amount of effort is pretty much exactly the same. And you know, that's where, as somebody who's been in beauty for years and years and years, I kind of started finding the trend a little bit strange, because really we're being given this message of clean girl, it's simple, it's authentic, you know, it's much more cleaner. Even when you look at it, it's still a trend that is obsessed with perfection, just like we were before, of how perfect we were doing our makeup. It is a new version of finding perfection. It's still unattainable for people. It's almost like, well, how I describe Glossier as a brand. It's made for people who already have good skin. The more people talk about clean girl, the more it was presented as something anyone could achieve, right? Anyone can put on some tinted SPF. Anyone can do this. Anyone can, to be fair. You know, and on paper that sounds great. It's for everyone. And you know, yeah, fine. After all, the trend isn't asking you to master complicated makeup techniques. It's not asking you to buy anything in particular. It's not asking you to buy particular eyeshadow palettes, you know, or certain highlighters or anything like that. It's not expecting you to have the skill of a professional makeup artist just to wear your makeup day to day. Or is it? Or is it? In theory, all you need is healthy skin, brush brows, you know, a lip balm, and some confidence in yourself. Simple, right? Is it though? Is it that simple? The more you think about this, and tell me if you disagree, the more you look at this trend, the more it felt like one of those beauty standard trends that's technically available to everyone. You might have all the stuff at home you already have for a trend. All you have to do is your skincare. But it's significantly easier for some people than others. And that's where I have a lot of criticism about the trend, because it places an enormous amount of emphasis on natural features. Your skin, your hair, your nails, your brows, facial structure, the things that makeup is, you know, we use sometimes makeup to alter or enhance or draw attention to, or even draw attention away from. When beauty trends focus heavily on makeup artistry, skill becomes part of that. Someone can create a dramatic look regardless of whether they have you know, perfect skin, good hair. You know, you can experiment with color, with creativity, with your skill set. You can experiment with transformation. Whereas clean girl kind of moves in the opposite direction of that. The less makeup you're wearing, the more attention shifts towards the face if we're talking about, you know, beauty and beauty standards. If you're wearing less makeup, there's no attention on your makeup, the attention moves more towards the face and what's underneath the makeup. And that's where this kind of trend dangerously starts to favor people who already fit that conventional beauty standard. And let's be real, the poster girls for the clean girl movement aren't random people. They already have good skin, they have symmetrical features, they have healthy hair, maybe they can afford treatments for all of these things, they have great bone structures, you know, and as I said, access to resources that help maintain all those things. And now listen, to be fair, that's not unique to the clean girl movement. We know that's the society we live in, you know, it's hardly breaking news. But the difference is that previous trends often celebrated what people could create. And in my opinion, clean girl aesthetic celebrates what people already have, or at least what appears to be what they already have. That is an important direction in terms of where the beauty industry should go, because very few people are actually waking up looking like influencers promoting these kind of lifestyles. The clean beauty lifestyle, you know, many are getting cosmetic treatments. I personally don't have time to be getting cosmetic treatments all the time. But when I do, it's lovely. But even the small ones, you know, brow laminations, lash lifts, tints, nutrition plans. They have you know, a coach for working out. Things that never appear in a 30-second TikTok video that give you or show like a final result of what they've been doing. You might just look at their content and think, oh, this is just how they look naturally. This is just how they're born. This is just, you know, it looks natural, but the process of getting there isn't. And I think that's why so many people have a complicated relationship with this trend because it's difficult to compete with a beauty standard that insists it isn't a beauty standard. At least with full glam makeup, everyone understood what was happening. No one genuinely believed that anyone woke up with a cut crease and, you know, a contour. The effort was extremely visible. It's extremely noticeable. The transformation was visible. But Clean Girl gives a whole different illusion altogether, and that illusion being that beauty is simply the result of making good choices, good lifestyle choices. You know, staying hydrated, buying this serum, this particular serum, buying this particular tinted moisturizer. And listen, don't get me wrong, this isn't criticism of anyone taking part in the trend, it's criticism of the narrative surrounding it. Because sometimes a clean girl aesthetic gets presented less like an aesthetic and more like a moral achievement. Having the right skincare, having the right beauty products that isn't makeup. There's still that expectation there. As if like people who don't fit into that aesthetic haven't tried hard enough, or is the opposite of clean. Beauty standards are one thing. We've always had beauty standards, but beauty standards disguised as self-improvement can make you feel a whole nother way of feeling. That wasn't a sentence. And those feelings can be, you know, much harder to recognize and much harder to escape mentally. And this is another thing that came into my mind about Clean Girl. If the trend is supposedly about individuality, authenticity, you know, embracing your natural self and embracing how you are, you just need a little bit here and there, why does everybody look exactly the fucking same? I haven't really given you my personal opinion just yet on the trend, but I will right now. I don't like it. Oh, for a few different reasons. As a makeup artist, I think it's boring. Like, how are you gonna tell me you're a beauty influencer, a makeup artist, and all you do is apply mascara and a tinted serum now and then? As a content creator, I think it's boring. You know, how many times can you just show bare skin and how wonderful your skin is? As a consumer of beauty products, I find it boring. I hate what is done to makeup, where, you know, we need skincare mentions in every beauty product. This is an anti-aging blush. This is an anti-aging this. It's like, does our blush need to be anti-aging? Does our eyebrow pencil need niacinamide? However, I do understand why some people may like it. I don't know if you've ever seen those videos of like, it's like, oh, you know, we used to be able to tell what kind of person you were by how you did your makeup. And it's so true. And not that everybody should fit into a box, but it just goes to show that there's no creativity in beauty anymore. That's my personal opinion on it. I would love to see more creativity online. I find it more entertaining than just somebody doing their makeup the way anyone else can. But also I have to say, my main criticism isn't about people participating in this trend. It isn't about the content creators who love this trend. Do I find it boring? Yes. I still do follow some of those people because I think they're nice people. For me, I always worry about the consumer. I worry about the customer. I worry about the viewer. And how, although Clean Girl can look like we are coming away from that expectation of beauty that wearing and putting on a lot of makeup gave us, we're falling into another unachievable standard. I'm just gonna add a little bit of deeper blush today because this is nice, but it's, can't see it. Listen, one thing that's always fascinated me about the internet in general, internet aesthetics, I can't say that word, I'm so sorry, is that they usually start as forms of self-expression, especially in the beauty world. People find a style, you know, they connect with it, they experiment, they do what they need to do, and then they put their own spin on it. Especially now, we see trends come around again that we've all experienced in the 90s, early 2000s. But then with social media, you get more of like a community that forms around this shared, I guess, visual version of that identity. But with Clean Girl, you know, somewhere along the way, despite all the messaging about, you know, embracing your natural self and, you know, looking after yourself, whatever, the end result is everyone looking the same. Once you go online and see all the clean girls and clean boys, it's hard to not notice anymore. You think, didn't I see this person? Have I not experienced this content creator already? The same outfits, you know, when I do like the outfit check, I can tell you exactly what it is. Very similar morning routines, you know, green juice, Pilates. Matcha. It's almost like everyone on social media collectively agreed on a single idea, single template, I guess, of what an attractive, successful person looks like. And that's what everyone wanted to do and wanted to be. And then spend the next 3 years copying and pasting that onto everyone. Wait, no, I'm exaggerating a little bit. Let me cover this spot up. This is killing me. I'll give credit where credit is due. Not every clean girl looks the same. Not every clean girl, not every content creator follows the exact formula. But I don't think it's a controversial opinion to say that the, you know, clean girl image, or clean girl look has become incredibly predictable. And in all honesty, I think that's why people have started pushing back against it a little bit, especially on my algorithm anyway. I'm starting to see a lot more creativity with makeup, people experimenting more with color, with textures and formulas, and even brands are starting to make a bit of a change. You know, trends have always been around, but traditionally they've left a bit of room for interpretation. It hasn't just all been the same expectations for everyone. People who follow the same trends will still maintain some kind of individuality. But I think with Clean Girl, instead of encouraging individuality or encouraging, you know, experimentation, there is a correct version to do it, a preferred version of how to do this trend, an ideal version of how to do the Clean Girl trend. And you know, the Clean Girl kind of movement does move into other areas as well, like supplements, workout stuff, you know, routines, just daily routines, like this is how I physically move out of my bed, habits. There's some weirder stuff it can get into. It kind of gets a bit like MLM vibes. I wish I didn't just draw mascara all over my lashes. I need them lifted again. While all of that sounds harmless, right? It may just seem like self-improvement, but I think it removes one of the most important things about beauty, about makeup, about sharing it with other people. And that's just the fun of beauty, the fun of makeup. You know, it could be messy. We would try things, you would do challenges. Can I do this? Can I do that? Beauty used to be experimental, you know? We would have people dyeing their eyebrows or making their eyebrows match their eye makeup. Blue lipsticks were being launched, all these crazy colors. Even drugstore brands were doing crazy colors, you know, that maybe no one would buy before. You know, sometimes made absolutely no sense, but they looked great. Sometimes they looked incredible, but at least they were interesting. And the person looked uniquely themselves or uniquely them. Problem is that after seeing the same thing over and over again, repeated thousands and thousands and thousands of times, it stops feeling like a personal style and more like a corporate thing, a dress code, you know, a uniform. Almost like, you know, what began as almost like a rejection of beauty rules, a rejection of a beauty standard, has slowly become a new set of rules, a new standard. People were like, down with makeup, and now it's like, oh, well, it's just as bad. I do have to say, I actually think a lot of the trend comes from, especially like with TikTok and how it blows up, is a lot of people trying to emulate other content creators' success and their image and what they do. Almost like a blueprint to success if you look like this, if you do your makeup like this and create content a certain way. But then perhaps the clean girl aesthetic isn't really about minimalism or the minimal effort at all. Because if we're truly talking about something that's simple and minimalist, people wouldn't feel pressure to look and perform it in exactly the same way. You're still conforming to a beauty standard. So to answer the main question of our video, did the clean girl aesthetic ruin the beauty industry? Well, no. At least I don't think so. Because let's be real, this movement didn't create a lot of the issues people associate it with. It just exposes them a little bit more. It makes you think about them a little more. The pressure to be beautiful didn't begin with clean girl. The pressure to be thin didn't begin with clean girl. You know what I mean? The pressure to spend money on beauty products definitely did not begin with clean girl. These things have existed for decades, in some cases centuries. What the clean girl aesthetic did was repackage those pressures into a form that felt more modern. right? And that's just what makes it so interesting, because beauty standards don't disappear. They change, they evolve into something else. When people became tired of heavy makeup, beauty standards didn't vanish, they adapted into what was happening at the time. When people became tired of obvious perfection, perfection became a subtle version of that. And when people became tired of huge transformations, transformation became less obvious to notice. It became more invisible. The standards changed, the pressure remained. On one hand, it genuinely made beauty feel approachable for many people. It encouraged simpler routines. It helped normalize lighter makeup. It shifted attention towards skincare and self-care. For some people, it was a welcome relief also from the existing beauty culture of the late 2010s, but on the other hand, it also created a new set of expectations. So new ways to compare yourself, new standards to measure yourself against, new ideals to chase, and because those ideals were presented as natural, they often felt more attainable than they actually were. That's what makes the trend so fascinating. The clean girl aesthetic was marked as freedom, you know, freedom from complicated makeup, from the skill set you needed to do that makeup, from unrealistic beauty standards, from the pressure to constantly perform beauty, I guess, to buy beauty. But in some ways, it simply replaced one performance with another performance of effortlessness, a fakeness, as you know, a performance you put on, a performance of health, of natural beauty, of having your life together. Maybe that's why so many people eventually became skeptical of it, because once you spend enough time online, you start noticing that most effortless people often seem to be putting in the most effort. I would love to know your opinions on this whole trend. Everything I have on my face is linked down below. We love this highlight, it's so beautiful. Thank you again to Current Body for sponsoring today's video, and all the links are down below in the description box. Thank you again for joining me, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye.